Hello, I'm Dr. David Rosensweet, and you've tuned into I Wonder Doctor Live. And this is the time, 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that I like to answer your questions. And we receive questions through the I Wonder Doctor website, in which you just click on Ask a Doc and email them to us. And you can also call in live from wherever you are on the planet Earth to 1-888-502-8886. And I'd like to welcome you. It's always a pleasure for me to answer your questions, because if you've got the question, it's important. And I've always known that in working with my patients, that I really go pretty silent at the beginning of any consultation, because I know in the first minute or two that person is going to reveal to me what matters to them most. And I might ask a general question like, well, what's going on? Or what brings you here? Or how can I assist you? And let that person just say it like they want to say it, because if it's on their mind, they're most connected with their own being and their own body. So I'm just amazed at how good the information is when you ask, when it matters to you. So I'd like to open today by talking about one of these subjects that is relevant to every single one of us living here. And it is, what is the carbohydrate content of our diet? And you know, everyone knows that soda drink, like one of the colas, for example, contain a lot of sugar. And you know, almost everyone is at least familiar with the concept that if you keep drinking soda and you keep getting sugar in any quantity over time, that it's rough on you. And many people have got it figured out that if they have too much of a sugar intake, they could be vulnerable to getting diabetes eventually, and all the challenges that diabetes is, because the sugar is a high octane fuel. And it is so high octane, it's like jet fuel. And from one aspect, when we need it for fight or flight, or our brains need it, well, glucose is really an excellent fuel, but too much of it is not. And it's the only fuel that we have that has its own technical management system, which means if you eat sugar, or glucose as we know it best, it goes into the bloodstream really quickly because it doesn't take any digesting, and in comes the whole management system, which makes sure that the blood sugar does not go too high or stay too high. And in order to do that, the body puts out this powerful hormone called insulin. Probably most of you have heard of this. And the insulin has the function of taking the sugar out of the blood and putting it into the cells, because when it's floating around the blood, it oxidizes really easily. It binds to serum proteins really easily and other proteins. We don't want those sugar levels to go too high and stay too high. And so the insulin is a designated hormone to bring it into the cells, where it can be either processed or stored as fat. The insulin in the body converts inside of the cells the simple carbohydrates, the sweets, the glucose, if there's too much of it, into fat. So it's such a common misconception that people are primarily gaining weight because of fat that they eat. Fat, that's a whole other subject, but it's primarily because they're eating too many simple carbohydrates. You've heard me say this many times. And carbohydrates are important to us, but not the simple ones. And how do you know if it's simple? If what you're eating is sweet, it's simple. That means it doesn't take any digestion. It just gets absorbed immediately, and it can drive that blood glucose up level high, and that's a little perilous if you keep on doing that to your body. And, well, we all know about the soda pops, that they have a lot of sugar in them, or most of us do. But did you know that some foods actually contain more simple carbohydrates than another? Like, would you suspect a turnip would be a problem to you? Well, it too has a lot of carbohydrate content. And in fact, the doctors, for example, the endocrinologists, these doctors that specialize in hormones, but they're primarily dealing with diabetics. Why are they primarily dealing with diabetics? Because it is epidemic in the United States. And when I was in medical school, we thought that there was two types, juvenile, and those folks needed insulin, and adult, and those folks had insulin resistance and they had high insulin levels. And now it's creeped earlier and earlier and earlier in life, and you see a lot of obese adolescents, which we did not see when I was in high school. And a lot of it's because of the adult kind of diabetes. And I was speaking to an endocrinologist this morning, and she was talking to me. We were discussing diabetes, and I asked her, have you found a glucose monitor where someone can monitor what foods they eat and does their blood glucose go high right there when they eat it, or an hour later or 2 hours later, rather than having to stick their finger every time to determine that? And she has, and she's named 3. And so you can get these continuous glucose monitors because, why in the heck am I mentioning that? Because, well, let me go general for a minute. The content, the carbohydrate content, the simple carbohydrate content of food has been known and studied and described for a long, long time. In fact, it always appears on charts that you can find on the internet so easy if you Google glycemic index, Glycemic index. Here is an example of a chart we just printed off the internet that lists the glycemic index. And what it lists is how much simple carbohydrate in there. How great is that simple carbohydrate impact on raising the blood glucose? And at the highest glycemic foods on this list, for example, look at this, it's dates and taco shells and parsnips. Oh my God, I'm eating 22 parsnips a day. No, not exactly, actually. I don't remember when I had my last parsnip, but it's got a glycemic index of 97 out of 100. Whoa, parsnips. Then French bread, 95, instant rice, 91. Yes, I'm just going up. The high glycemic foods, here's the mediums, and here's the lows. For example, tomatoes, very low. Peas, very low. Even peaches, very low. So low, medium, and high, because someone who has given their glucose regulating mechanism, i.e. their insulin system, too many challenges over too many years, and we want to calm that down and give that some space to breathe and heal. We don't want to challenge it. So I highly recommend that you get a glycemic index chart and lower your simple carbohydrate index by eating foods that, number one, aren't sweet. If it's sweet, you know it's got simple carbohydrates in it. That's the simple way to tell. And then if it's processed, it's got simple carbohydrates in it, because processing foods, putting in cans, bottles, etc., there's so much that goes into that thing, that whole process. And what it does is it diminishes the taste of foods. So processed foods are boring tastes. So what does the food industry do? It adds taste accelerators in there called sweets and salt. So that's why, anyone who's on a real strong healing program, we suggest that you do not eat processed foods, that you don't purchase the bottles, boxes, and cans, because they got some problems with it. And you can also pull out this glycemic index for checking the diet that you're on, because you want to have low glycemic foods, low challenge foods. And back to my wonderful conversation with this very gracious endocrinologist in Cincinnati, Ohio, we were talking about constant glucose monitoring, because even more fascinating is there's an individual issue here. Like a food that will raise the insulin levels really quickly for one person may not do it for another. Like, I don't know if you've heard about the ketone diet or the ketosis diet, and it's been highly touted for weight loss, beginning with Dr. Atkins, and it's got a lot of protein in it. got a lot of animal protein in it. Why? Because if you're not eating your carbohydrates, where are you going to get your nourishment? So you got to get it from fats and proteins. So these ketosis diets are more strong in fats and proteins. But there are some people that when they eat meat, their blood glucose goes up. What? Because the body is capable, very strongly capable, of converting the amino acids that proteins are made out of into glucose. It's called gluconeogenesis. That's taking your protein and turning it into glucose. The moral of this story is, when we really want to know what's going on with someone, we have them test out their individual foods, because individuals differ, wouldn't you know? I heard a sound, and it was our beloved TJ, who always joins me, or usually joins me on the stage, to be my strongest support system while I'm talking to you all. I just heard TJ. So, if anybody should at least glance at or look at or print out or use as the Bible of nutrition, the glycemic index, because if you're over 30, or you're over 20, or you're over 10, you've given enough challenge to that glucose regulating mechanism that you want to put your attention on it as early as you can intercept it. And if you're in your 40s and 50s and you haven't attended to the carbohydrate or sweets content of your food, you should do it. Your numbers will reveal it. The common blood test that doctors do will tell you all about how much challenge you've done to your glucose regulating mechanism simply by measuring your glucose, your hemoglobin A1C, and your fasting insulin. Oh boy, do I learn a lot. And also your fats, which leads me into a question that during last week's lives, we received a Facebook response from Emma. And actually, Emma and I had a correspondence going back and forth. And here's one of the things that Emma stated. She said, this was in response to, it's sweets that increase cholesterol. She said, not true. Carbs don't raise cholesterol. Saturated fat does. So now I'm going to challenge, as I did when I responded to Emma. And, you know, cholesterol is a very necessary, essential biochemical that our bodies need, must have, and if it goes too low, it's a problem, because you stop producing your amazing hormones coming from your ovary, or from your testicles, or from your adrenal glands, the steroid hormones. They are derived from cholesterol. We need cholesterol. If you get too low, if that cholesterol gets too low, for example, with the cholesterol lowering drugs, because that's the only way it gets too low. Very few human beings ever develop too low cholesterol. The issue is usually too high. But those cholesterol lowering drugs can get it too low. Well, people get depressed because, and worse, because these steroid hormones are part of the biochemistry of us feeling good, feeling up, feeling energized, feeling vital and alive and happy. Now, this cholesterol can come from our food, but our body produces cholesterol from basic biochemicals. And the cholesterol is very rarely coming from saturated fats, but let's talk about fats. Because fats got such a lousy name, like they were evil. And how in the world did that happen? Food on earth has fats in it. One would think that they were important, and they are. But what happened is this often happens on this planet, is the sweet producing, the simple carbohydrate producing, the sugar producing industry, the soda pop producing industry decided that they need greater market share and market penetration. And they started saying that cholesterol was rising from fat. And there were no good studies that they based that upon, but oh my, you think about it. There was a time in recent history where the evils of fat exploded onto the information system, newspapers, books, etc. And it was originated in the sugar industry who wanted to make carbohydrates the good guy. And oh my goodness, it was one of the most catastrophic health events that have taken place over time. Because indeed, people got afraid of fats, and when you're not eating fat, you're going to be hungry, so what are you going to do? You have to increase the only other two possibilities of protein and carbohydrate, and they made carbohydrates so ridiculously easily available. And so what happened? That's when cholesterol levels started going up universally. That's when people started gaining weight. Yeah, gaining weight. Eat fat. I mean, one of my favorite functional medicine doctors, medical doctor in the United States, Mark Hyman, has written a book called Eat Fat, Get Thin. What? That goes so much against the prevailing opinion. But he's absolutely right. And what we have to make a distinction, and I know this is getting pretty technical, and I think my producers are probably squirming in their squirm suits right now as I'm saying this, but there's two different kinds of fats, saturated fats even, on this planet. There's the good fats, and oh my, we need them. And there's the not good fats. And you've heard about trans fats perhaps, but the fats I'm talking about is if you have a natural animal, for example, that is living naturally like they always have for millions and millions of years, and they're grazing in green pastures and eating the food that's available on this earth, they're going to produce a really good fat that you will benefit from. These days, when you go to your market, these are labeled as grass-fed or pasture-raised, or one of the prominent grocery stores actually numbers their meat from step 1 to step 5. Step 5 being the absolutely most natural and healthy condition that these animals are raised under. And step 1 being, they could be in pens, they could be kept in corrals, they could be fed artificially. And this is what happened to, now I'm drifting over to the non-natural situation for animals. They're fed feed. They're corralled in these like cow concentration camps, I used to call them. Because when I lived and worked in New Mexico, I would drive by from time to time a whole area of New Mexico that had agribusiness cattle. They're not roaming free on the plains, roaming the plains. They are penned up, and of course all the grass is gone, and all you see is dirt, and you see mounds of dung, and these animals get very unhealthy because it's a very harsh way to treat an animal, and they're being fed a lot of soy and other stuff that they never used to eat. And it changes their internal fat content. Oy! The good stuff turns to the not good stuff. So if there's any problem with saturated fats, it's because of how the animals are treated that you're eating. And that's why look for grass-fed, look for pasture-raised, look for free roaming. This really does matter. And if you eat the fats from those animals, for example, including chickens and eggs, etc., you're going to be getting healthy fats that isn't necessarily going to raise your cholesterol and isn't necessarily going to make you fat. But I can tell you what will cause most people, sooner or later, to increase their fat and increase their cholesterol. It is, drum roll, simple carbohydrates. Don't overeat them. If it's sweet, don't overeat them. Not a lot of complexity to nutrition. You know, you think it is, and it's easy to get confused. But if you eat like our ancestors used to eat, and you don't, they didn't see any bottles, boxes, and cans of very much, as they were roaming the plains. You eat natural food, prepared in natural ways, harvested in natural ways, you're going to do fine. You're going to do great. You can't do better than that. Nowadays, this food has got this strange name, label, organic, as if organic food was some new invention of human beings. No, it's the only way food has been since the beginning of time. All of it's organic. until about the 1930s, 40s, 50s, keeps getting worse, 60s, 70s, keeps getting worse, when you got these invented foods raised in crazy ways, including genetically modified. Oh my God, you're messing with the genes? You're messing with the genes of the food. You're messing with our genes. So, yes, nutrition gets super easy if you think of natural foods that are grown and raised in natural ways. Eat that food. You're going to do just fine. That means if it's in a bottle, box, or can, it's suspicious. You certainly don't want to base your whole diet on it. Natural foods. Glycemic index, as I open this with, you're going to do really well. Now there's a little more nutrition, but not a lot. How about that? And we have a question from Jane in Bend, Oregon. What's up with that wrinkled piece of crap in the background? Looks like you framed a wrinkled old t-shirt. I wonder if you're referring to that. That's hilarious. Well, that's my University of Michigan medical school diploma. And it's so wrinkled because it's made out of real sheepskin. Like, I took it to a framer and said, "Can you get those wrinkles out of there?" And this was a very experienced framer, and he looked at me and he said, "No, I can't." He advertises himself as the best framer in the world. That's what's on his internet site. He said, "No, I can't." He'd already framed stuff for me, so I knew it was great. He says, "That's sheepskin. You'll never get that out of there." And yes, because the diplomas at the University of Michigan back in the day were actually printed onto sheepskin. That's why it's wrinkled, Jay. Let me tell you a little more story about that. I remember the first day I received that diploma. I was graduating from the University of Michigan Medical School. There was about 2,000 people of friends and family of 200 medical students in our big class. It was a big day, cap and gown. And when it came to the time of distributing the diplomas, there were so many of us, it would be too boring if they just called their name and each came up. So they had the dean of the main dean of the medical school was lecturing to the audience of 2,000. And then periodically he was interrupted by someone calling out George Adams. And up would parade George Adams. It would take him a good 30 seconds to get from where he was in the group up until receive the diploma. And I was an R, Rosensweet. And so I was way down the line. So I'm walking up to reach out to get my diploma, and out of the main dean's mouth come, "And physicians, heal thyself." That was the first time I ever heard that. And instead of being able to take hold of my diploma, I started falling to the floor. I was fainting. And I got down to my knees that I didn't lose it all the way, and I got back up and I took that diploma and I turned around, walked back to the group. I walked through the group. Something very strong was going on in me. I was sweating totally in my body. It's never happened to me. I was feeling heart palpitations and I was feeling faint again. So instead, I walked through the group into backstage, and I'm standing there backstage, and I can see this and feel this as if I was there right in this moment. And I went, "Oh my God, what did that dean say? Physician, heal thyself." Oh, we didn't learn anything about healing. And oh my goodness, am I going to have to be a physician that I'm going to have to heal myself? And it was very strong, and I really changed the course of my medical career then. I went on to a different internship just to recover and go down a different pathway. And my goodness, I know that so many of you out there, as I faced on that day, are in a process where you've discovered there might be things for you to heal. Physical body things, relationship things, how you relate to work, how you relate to the world, how your mood is inside, a multitude of really crucial in life navigating issues that can lead to unsuccessful relationship, divorce, the split ups of families, health issues, really. And you're on a healing path. And I want to tell you, I've been on a healing path. And it's been so rewarding, and there's been hundreds of challenging moments, things to learn, new things to integrate. Every little thing that you do, it matters. It adds up. So I have been a physician that's been on a lifelong healing journey. And it's been one of the richest things I've ever done in this lifetime. It's so rewarding because I have a lot of fun and a lot of love in my life. And I had a lot to learn to arrive here. And you can learn it. I Wonder Doctor's a resource. You can get help through our health coaches. There's so many resources in the world of healing now and on the internet, and skilled, loving, caring people who can assist you along the way. I certainly had so much assistance along the way, but bravo to you. If you know you need to heal, like I discovered in that shocking moment when I was 28 years old on that medical stool stage, and there it is, an ever-present reminder, my wrinkled sheepskin. So there's part of the story, but bless your hearts. Stay with it. Figure out one or two things to do at a time. They all count. You'll build a life on it, and the rewards are enormous, including, for most of you, super good health. And you'll understand what healing is. And it's the best game in town, I think. We have a question here from Roger on Facebook. And Roger asks, is precancer important or not? Well, it depends where that diagnosis is relating to. For example, in dermatology, you can go to a dermatologist and he can look at something on your skin, and even experienced dermatologists will say, I think that's precancerous. And then they remove it and they see, it's not cancer, but there's enough changes in there that suggest it could become cancer. And yes, that is significant. It's why along the way I've met and have gone to a dermatologist frequently throughout my life, because they're the ones who are the most common ones to pick up precancerous stuff. Now, women can have such a thing take place in the uterine cervix. So women who get pap smears, my goodness, pap smears have prevented so much trouble. Yes, they're not fun to do, they're a bit of a hassle to do, but they're so simple, they're so non-invasive, and they've saved so many women from, before the pap smear came out, there were women who were getting cancer of the cervix. And very often, when they do that simple test where they just rub something on the uterine cervix during a pelvic exam, the pathologist looks under the microscope and sees cells that, they're not cancer all the way, but they look like they could head in that direction. I respect that word precancerous, and these are the two most common ways that I know that you actually hear the term precancer. Now, Roger, could you type in, was there some specific cancer that you're referring to? For example, cancer of the cervix, which is probably not your issue, and skin cancer, most skin cancers are so easy to deal with. Oh my gosh, especially when you catch them early. So if a dermatologist says this is precancer, they'll know what to do with it. This is their expertise. But Roger, type in a question if you have a further question around what the precancerous issue that you were possibly referring to, so we can get more specific about it. And I respect when someone has something that concerns them. So you have a concern, and the word is precancer, and what's the bottom line of the concern? There's some kind of quote, message trying to get through to you that something doesn't quite feel right. And it's a clue. You've received a clue. No matter who told you about the precancer, you're getting a clue that something's not quite right. So what our bodies want, there's so much integrity, is they want the right answer to the question, what's going on here? They don't want a simplistic or an incorrect, it's not a Valium deficiency, for example. You want, what is going on here? What things can I do that I need to change? Because anything that you have has got causes to it. And the causes, as complex as medical illness can be and diagnoses can be, the causes always come down to issues of what you're eating, nutrition, or what you're not eating, toxicity, because we've got a lot of toxic exposures, and in some people's health situation, toxicity isn't very significant. In others, it's a big deal. Nutrition, toxicity, exercise. Woo-hoo! You can do so much for yourself if you get on a good, healthy, not complex, you don't need it to be complex, exercise program. Oh my goodness, it'll do so much good for you. It's the strongest thing that anyone can do to help improve their health, is a right exercise program. And then the fourth, and the elephant in most people's room, is having an excessive or exaggerated response to the stress of life. Notice I'm not saying stress is the problem. Life has stresses in it. There's a purpose for stress. It's one of the things that helps us grow. And we're not going to get rid of stress in our lifetime. So the question is more, how are we responding to the stress? Are we reacting and overreacting and getting all bent out of shape from stress, that if we were more sober, more present, more had good function of how we worked with our uncomfortable emotions, that's a functional response to stress. That does not trigger the biology of the fight or flight response. But anyway, that's the fourth cause of all this stuff. So if you're getting a little bit of a hint, you can ask, well, what's going on that I need to pay attention to so I can reverse my health in the direction of health? Now, I haven't seen that question from you, Roger, pop back up here. I was curious about what specific precancer you were talking about, but that's what I was referring to. So you're getting a message, something doesn't quite feel right to you. It could be a specific message, like a dermatologist saying you've got a precancerous lesion there. Hey, let them do their thing. I love their thing. And let them do it. And let them do it early. As soon as they see it, let them do it that day. That's what I do with my dermatologist. And then, I don't know the specifics of it, but you've gotten some kind of language has come into yourself called question about precancer. Well, let's honor that. Something's going on in your life, in your situation, in your relationships, in your work, something that matters to you. It's always something that matters to you. And if you can identify it and get help with it if you need and address it, you'll move in the direction of health rather than the direction of illness, or in this case, in the direction of cancer. So I don't see anything more specific from you, Roger, but I'm glad you asked. And you could also submit it through Ask a Doc, or tune in every Thursday at 1 o'clock for I Wonder Doctor Live. And we can continue this conversation, Roger, and continue talking with any of you who have any questions. I'm Dr. David Rosensweet. As always, I so enjoy being with you. Hello, I'm Dr. David Rosensweet, and you've tuned in to I Wonder Doctor Live, our 2 o'clock on Thursday segment, Eastern Standard Time, following our 1 o'clock in which we answer medical questions, and you can call in and ask any question to me. And our 2 o'clock, I'd like to focus on how stress and responding to stress and any information and tools that you can acquire to help you as you respond to stress and don't trigger the biology of the stress response, which will dismantle your health sooner or later. This is what I'd like to talk about. And if you have any questions, please call 888-502-8886, and we can talk live and answer your specific questions. I'd like to open today by recounting a session I did earlier today with a young woman who's in the 3rd trimester of her pregnancy, and she was dismayed. And when she got married, she was so much hoping that the marriage would go well and they would create a family together. And what she told me this morning was something I knew about her, was here she was near the end of the pregnancy and things were not going well. And her husband and her had lost that intimate connection, and she was worried and he was worried, and it didn't feel right, and she was worried about the baby coming and how it was going to be, and was their marriage going to make it, survive it. And you know, as a physician, I've heard a lot of these stories and lived through several of them myself. And how does this happen? And she was saying that she just didn't see the beauty in him that she saw when they first got together, and wondered where the magic was. And told me several other things to give me the big clue that she, like so many of us, and so invisible to so many of us, were living primarily in the mind. And worried about the future, thinking about the past, trying to come up with remedies about how to fix this or that. And even when they're in the same presence of someone that matters, they get nervous and judgmental of some of the things that they do. I don't like this, I don't feel you're not treating me well enough, and it's an endless black hole that we can go down to, because we're on this earth to learn how to do this whole living thing all the way. And it's because it's not like we have a life. We are life. And in order to know what that means, we need to get so present, so sensing of ourselves, what we feel inside, and the surroundings that we're in the moment. You know, it's cliche almost, be here now and be in the moment. Yet it's some of the most important goal that we could possibly have, is to show up in the moment, because it's the only place where the love, the fun, and the beauty occurs. The only place. You can imagine this and yearn after that, and when I meet my soulmate and how terrific it's going to be. And but it's not very satisfying. The real thing of being in a real relationship and being able to see and experience love in your heart and the beauty of someone else, of course, you all know this. Well, how do we get there better? How does this young woman do better inside of her pregnancy and marital situation? Well, for one thing, we have got to get over this belief that we're going to find the satisfaction outside of ourselves. And one of the reasons we go up into our mind and went into our mind originally is we're trying to figure it out. Something doesn't feel right, and we want to say, well, what's the problem? And what can I do to fix it? And it's endless problem solving. That's why we went up into our mind in the first place, one of the reasons. Another reason that we went up into our mind and developed the habit of getting up into our mind is we didn't like how we felt. We felt alone, or lonely, or sad, or afraid. when you really break it down, some people, they only get introduced to the general situation of I'm feeling anxiety or feeling depression, but beneath that, there is the fear and the sadness, etc. And since for some reason, at this phase of human existence and probably all the way up till now, those uncomfortable feelings have been judged. Like there must be something wrong. I shouldn't feel those feelings. And I got to go out and seek a solution. It's those uncomfortable feelings that also propelled us up into our mind and out of the moment. So I was explaining to her this morning, as I've said many times, that when I play racquetball with my son, it's a very fast-moving game. And if I see the ball coming off the wall and I think, oh, I can get that, it's too late. That gap where I went to use my mind took my focus off the ball, and I'll miss it every time. Anyone who plays sports knows the importance of being in the zone where you're not thinking a lot. You're just connected to the day and your body and the pleasure and the game, and you just take that swing because it feels automatic to you, and that's where the fun is. Well, it's the same with life. If you've got a voice inside of your head it's going to stand between you and being with the moment that you're in. So you've all heard of the remedy called meditation, and I approached meditation from a very unusual standpoint. I didn't like it when I first did it a long time ago, and I felt like I was terrible at it, and I didn't get it. And fortunately, over the years, I've had wonderful teachers. Some of them are online, that you can just get this amazing information online. And one of the teachers put it this way, that a common practice in meditation is that we catch ourselves thinking and we choose to do a practice called let me turn my attention inwards to the moment. And what's an easy thing or an easier thing to pay attention to in the moment? Well, in meditation, one of the most common things that's chosen is the breath, because it's automatic, it's very basic. So let's do it together for a moment. I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to take my attention off speaking into the camera and pay attention to my breath. See if I can feel my breath. You might feel the air go by your nostrils. You may feel your lungs fill up a bit. The main practice is, can I pay attention? Can I sense? Can I feel breathing? And even that is just enough time that some of you or many of you may have found that your mind took you away. For the first breath, you could pay attention to the breath. The second breath, you were paying partial attention. And the third breath, you're thinking about something else. And the practice in meditation is to notice when you leave sensing something like the breath, or if you're sitting in front of a tree, you pay attention to the tree, or if you're out in nature and you hear birds, you pay attention to what's actually happening in the moment. And you keep bringing yourself back to sensing and feeling what's actually taking place in that moment. Some people like to feel the energy in their body. Sometimes pain in the body will capture your attention. Sometimes you won't be able to get beyond excessive thoughts, so you pay attention to the thoughts. And whenever that happens, I always ask the question, what am I feeling? Because it's often uncomfortable feelings that are fueling endless psychological assessments, stories in the mind, language. So I pause and I go, I know why I've been focusing outside myself, because I know I'm feeling frightened. So I pay attention to that, and I'll feel the fear. I'm feeling what's actually taking place. Oh, you want to build a skill that can make a difference. Let yourself be willing to feel whatever is going on in your own being. I'm not saying do anything about it. I'm not saying heal it. I'm not saying fix it. I'm not saying change it. I'm saying be aware of it, be conscious of it, and primarily feel it. Or it could be as simple as your breath, or again as a tree. You're bringing your attention into what's actually recognizable, identifiable, feelable, perceivable in the moment. You keep bringing yourself back. And you know, as one wonderful teacher, Tara Brach, has said, this can become a refuge for you. And I use this refuge. So I have a very active life, and sometimes I'll be in the midst of a lot of people with a lot of discussion going on, and I'll go, I think I'm just going to take a refuge in myself. And I use the same tool that I use in meditation. I just focus my attention internally. I'll feel my body. I'll feel and perceive my breath. I'm taking refuge in my own being. A wonderful place to go. And in my own life, meditation has become most meaningful for me, not so much the times I'm sitting for the particular purpose of doing this practice, but it's throughout the day. How many times a day can I possibly remember to pay attention to what's going on in the moment? And here's one of the things that can happen, a few of the things that can happen to you. No matter what's going on in your world, even stressful stuff, you can take refuge in the peace and stillness that is beneath all of our surface. Or even if it's the fear, at least you're in the truth. Even if you're feeling fear, you make the refuge, the truth will set you free. It's the truth of what's going on for you. It's simultaneously, if things are a little chaotic and I'm not sure what's going on, and I take refuge in myself and I'll feel fear, I'll get the simultaneous relief of, oh, I'm in the truth. This is what's actually going on. And it's amazing how quickly things can move off when you do that. They don't have to, because at the core of a good meditative process is being willing to accept exactly what's going on in yourself, in any given moment. And what happens is you keep building a muscle, and it's called, I'm going to go to the moment. I'm going to go to now, what's actually happening. And what happens is, as you develop this muscle, you start seeing, so to speak, that your days consist of a lot of different nows. And you start seeing that your days unfold. It looks like we're the total creators of our life. Well, maybe we're not. Maybe our days are unfolding for us. And my goodness, living on Earth and being exposed to animals and plants and trees and people and birds in the sky. Oh my goodness, if you get good at perceiving and being now, in the moment, we gain access to the deep stillness and peace a lot of the time that we really are beneath our surface ruffles. When you get really awake and really perceptive, from time to time you're going to feel what you're made out of, which is life and love. You feel life and love. Oh man, we're living energy of love. That's what we are. So people who really develop these skills, they get to perceive that a certain amount of time every day. And then you also gain access to the extraordinary beauty of human beings. I was thinking to myself yesterday about all the people I encountered yesterday. And because one of the things I like to do is be there and perceive and listen to and look at the people, and the more skill I've gotten at this, the beauty is outrageous. My God, we're seeing the divine manifesting in another human being. That's who we are, and we get to see it, and we're surrounded by it. And well, maybe some of the times that we're encountering them, they're upset or they're distracted. Well, if you have acceptance for what it feels like to be upset inside yourself, then you're going to have acceptance for when they're being that way themselves. You're not going to have an expectation, oh, you're my mate and you're supposed to be beautiful and loving every single second. And oh, look at that, you're not. Well, could this really be our mating? Because my mate would love me every single second of the universe and would be perfect to me and give me everything every minute. I'm being facetious, but in a certain way, if we're not at peace with ourselves, we might be demanding of every human being more or less, and especially those up close and personal, that they be a perfect self in the moment. And we miss the beauty because everyone, including ourselves, we're fluctuating, most of us still. We have our up times when we're happy and we're perceptive and we're present. We have our distracted times when we're worried about the future and uncomfortable about the past and what we did, and on and on. And we cycle. And I've noticed this just about, certainly in everyone that I know, including myself. So if you're there, kind and accepting of who's in your reality in any given moment, and you give them the freedom to be who they are, and you're not placing subconscious demands on them, like I want you to be your best self, and I sure want you to do good things for me, including love me and like me, and you don't have any of that stuff going on. They can relax. Their soul can relax. There's no demands being placed on them. There's no expectations being placed on them. And they can go through their normal cycles, and I guarantee you, and this is what I was heading towards with this young woman, that if you get up in your mind and you get out of the moment, you miss all the beautiful moments as our people cycle through their own beauty. And she was telling me about a time that she was watching her husband watch some baseball and on TV, and she saw that he was excited, but she only saw it out of the corner of her eye, because she also wasn't really happy about what she wasn't getting in that moment. And I just realized that, she could have missed a real moment where she got to see her husband having fun. And, there's human beauty in someone having fun of the highest order. We can miss like when I go home tonight, on most every night that Kim and I are together, there's going to be 20 times, if I'm awake, that she's going to be beautiful, delightful, fun. There might be times when she's not, or I'm not. But if you have this skill to just be patient and accept, and be accepting those times because you know how to accept your own internal discomfort, then you can be present in the moment. And then the world opens up, and you're living life. You're not living in your mind. You're not overthinking things, worried about the past, worried about the future. No, you're there in the moment. We had this extraordinary meeting with our business doctor yesterday, and there's a lot of phenomenal information flying around. And at the same time, I took a lot of time just to be with this special person and see the beauty of his being and his effort and his commitment and his knowledge. And there was the joy. It was in being together, and the information was tremendously supportive, but I didn't miss out on the life of being together. So I'm just saying that if you can arrive in the moment, you can perceive what's going on in the moment, called the life energy in yourself, the love energy in yourself, or whatever energy is in yourself, including sadness or fear. You get accepting of all of that, then you're going to accept all of that in who's out there, and you're not going to place demands on them to be their perfect self. You're going to let them be the self that they are. And you're going to get, if you just are patient, many times you're going to see such beauty and such a beautiful face And you're going to feel such beautiful energy. You're going to feel the love that they are and the fun that they are. So, want to get healthy? Get connected to the life that you are. The life that is your life. Get present in that moment. You can use meditation so that you learn how to be present in your moment with yourself, and you can take refuge in yourself. Because, for example, when I pause and go, geez, I'm thinking too much, I'm a little too agitated, there's too much chaos going on here, I think I'll just pay attention to my breath. Feel my body. Taking refuge in myself, as Tara Brach has languaged it. It's a place of return, it's a place of practice, it's a place of rest, it's a place of becoming present. To me, that's a lot what meditation's about. It's learning how to come into the moment and feel and experience and sense what's actually going on in our bodies, in our hearts, in our soul, in the moment. And then as the door of the moment opens up to us, whoa, this place, Earth, shall I use the word entertaining again? Shall I use the words miraculous, amazing, astounding, loaded with love and fun and caring, preciousness, and loaded with the individual beings that we all are, so rich and entertaining in our own ways. So, be here now. Oh my goodness. Meditation is a practice route to being here now, to gathering oneself where the mind has taken us. I love my mind. My goodness, I've earned a living for 60 years with my mind. It's wonderful. But I am subject to overthinking and using my mind to worry or to be concerned about the past or judge the future, the present. Oh, this isn't right. This couldn't be my life. This person couldn't be like this in my real life. Take me to my real life. Or worried about the future and yearning for the good life, the place I'll live, the people I'll be with, that will be the real life and the real people. It's all a very substantial distraction from the only place that real life is taking place, and it is my life. And if it's happening in my day, it's my life. Join life. Have the energy that's going on in your being primarily be the energy of life. Accept life. Accept your life. Accept what's going on in yourself. This is the doorway and the pathway to being here now, being in the moment. I want to accept what I feel in this moment, what this moment is, who's in my moment, no matter where they are in the spectrum of feeling their best or their worst, no matter what life is delivering, it's my life. I want to get great at exactly what it is, not some future it's going to be. I want to be here now. Yes. And it's good for your health, my goodness, because if you're resisting what's here now, you become the judgmental environment for anyone that's up close and personal in your life, a spouse, a partner, a business partner, or the checkout people at the grocery store, or whoever you encounter. You become an unsafe space and a detrimental space for them because you're not happy with it, and you're judging them. And you know, whether they're conscious of it or not, we all feel everything all the time, and so you become a force for deterioration of their health. not here to judge us. It's just an observation I've made of myself so many times and others. We don't want to be living in a world that we're part of the degeneration process. We want to live in a world where we're part of the, let's put it all together and put Humpty Dumpty back together here. And in order to do that, we have to become safe. We have to become accepting, not resisting, not judging, not saying how you're being right now is just not okay. No, it's harsh on people. It scares them more. They're already upset. Whereas acceptance and being a peaceful, quiet space, if it's true that you are, that gives them the room to be safer. And they'll see their own shtick. And it gives them the greatest opportunity, if they're not receiving pressure from you, to recognize and acknowledge, be conscious of, and at least stop making the choices of unbeneficial choices. I know I'm weaving around, in and out, but the themes are always get good at your moment. Get good at what you feel, no matter what that is, so that when you feel happy, you actually notice it. You actually feel it. You're actually nourished by it. When you feel sad, you notice it. You accept it. When you feel fear, you notice, accept it. You become the acceptor of exactly where you are. You coming home to being here now because you're accepting, not resisting, and not trying to escape who you are. Sometimes easier to do, sometimes harder. But what a skill to develop. As you become an acceptor of who you are and all the various moods that you're in, can be in, you become safe for others because you've got room for their wobble. You're safer to be around because you're accepting it. You realize we're humans. We're going through learning processes. Sometimes we're not so pretty. It's freedom. You start accepting yourself, you're free to be anywhere. And you can accept the life that you're in, and then the best part. Then, since you're not threatened by the life you're in, you're comfortable in it, you're accepting in it, you get exposure to the fun, to the beauty, to the humor. You become part of that humor. People are so funny and fun. It's so entertaining and so beautiful. So be here now. Oh yeah, this is a goal. This is a goal. Yes, goals are about the future, but if you're going to have something that you want in your life, can a goal be as simple as profound as challenging as, and as simple to understand as, I just want to arrive at the moment called my life, my moment, and accept no matter where I am, thus become an accepting space for others, and thus setting up my life that I can, so to speak, sit back and enjoy the ride because it is ever so beautiful. It's so full of sparkle and kindness and caring and concern and love and fun. How does this relate to medicine? This is the big medicine. I break medicine down into every microsecond. We are making a choice, whether conscious or not, to do something that's nurturing to us, that builds energy, that provides safety to self, or we're doing something that's stressful and triggering the biology of the stress response. So there's so much uber view on how to heal and how to eat right and exercise right and on and on and on. But I've seen people on the most perfect diet be so uptight about them that uptightness is like the elephant in a room where the foods they're eating have become inconsequential compared to the stress. And the same with exercise, this amazing tool to feel well. I've seen people do it in an uptight fashion and stress their bodies and injure their bodies. It takes us down to, and this is where it's good for everybody. I mean, everybody. If you break your life and your healing down to being here now, you're going to see that there's 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, so to speak, moments in your attitude that you have control over and you can build up skills around in any given moment is going to be triggering life. It's going to allow life energy to move through. It's very healing. Life is so good for the health. Or it's going to allow stress biochemistry. Stress things, tightenings, move your structure around, pinch your nerves, send out these inflammatory biochemicals as if you're being attacked internally and attacking your immune system. It's so important, these micro moments. And the beautiful thing about this is you can be on a phenomenal healing process in your very life, in every moment in your days, as you turn to pay attention to, how am I doing right now? Well, what am I feeling? Well, how am I breathing? And so break your healing process down to being here now and influence those nows and take on the project of getting better at the nows, which means better at perceiving, feeling, and accepting them. And lo and behold, you'll be building decision after decision. This doesn't mean that you can do this within any situation that you're in. You could start from where you are and keep improving every single day and have patience and acceptance for your setbacks. We all have them, 2 steps forward, 1 step back sometimes. But your healing process is about 1,000 million nows. And in that now, can you live? Can you get present? Can you enjoy? Or if you're uptight, if you're judging, if you're lost in your mind, can you make a decision to come back to your breath, come back to the refuge of yourself? That's the goal of meditation, to learn how to be in the moment, which is so good for your health and so good for your healing. And if there's no calls, no questions today, I'm Dr. David Rosensweet. It's an honor to be with you always. And call us at 888-502-8886 at 1 o'clock for the I Wonder Doctor medical questions, or at 2 o'clock for how to get better of where healing really takes place. Moment by moment, by moment, by moment, by moment, as we remedy by simple means the stress that we're under, that is self-inflicted, or we find our way to who we are and what we feel in any given moment and how we're accepting that. And ultimately what's beneath that surface is the stillness, the peace, the joy, the presence that gives us access to the extraordinary beauty of life. Thanks for being together. I'm Dr. David Rosensweet. It's an honor.